Hey, my name is Frederick Afrifa. I'm a global keynote speaker. I went from delivery driver to global keynote speaker in 4 years. And these videos that I'm gonna do are simply to help you. I'm sick and tired of people in the speaking industry charging thousands of pounds to newbies for information that really and truly you should get for free because the implementation is hard enough. So if you're watching one of these videos, you no longer need to pay thousands of pounds for a speaking course. All you have to do is listen to the information on these videos and actually implement it, which is the hard part. So in this video, I'm going to discuss how I went from delivery driver to over 400 speaking engagements in 12 months. This video helped hundreds of you get your first speaking engagement. And I'm going to explain exactly how you can do it too. So the first thing to understand is speaking is basically the reward for working hard. The vast majority of the time you will spend is on your laptop. If you want to get paid to speak, you would spend 70% of your time on your laptop and only 30% speaking. And that's really important to understand that because typically you see speakers on stage and you think, oh, I want to do that. But what you don't see are the hours and days and weeks and months that they spend sending emails, connecting on LinkedIn, having coffees. And only a small percentage of that is the money. So be ready to do that. Okay, there's no sugarcoating. Now, what do you do in that 70% of the time? The first thing is you need to make these people aware that you even exist. So when I first started in 2021, nobody knew I existed. I was a delivery driver. So what did I do? I figured I need to make these people aware that I existed. And my way of doing it was through email marketing campaigns. So what I simply did is I sent a lot of emails trying to make these people aware of my services. So let's dissect how can you use emails to get your next speaking engagements. Now, the first thing to understand, it's fully a numbers game. So for context, I've gone on record to say that I used to send 100 emails a day, 5 days a week, every single week. And the percentage of people that got back to me was actually very, very, very small. The first email that you send should not be an essay. And that's really important. A lot of people that show me the emails that they send, especially to schools, the first email they send is an email highlighting all of the services, all of the topics that they can speak on. And that is totally the wrong approach. The first email that you send needs to be a very short email, which is quite conversational. And I want you to think about it as approaching someone in the street or at a networking event. You're simply going to say to them, hey, this is my name, this is what I do. And then you're going to ask them a question back. Put yourself in the shoes of someone receiving that email. If you got an email where you had to keep scrolling because there was so much information, you're not going to read it. Same is true for the people that you are emailing. I'm going to show you an example of the typical first email that I send here. And I'll typically say, hey, this is my name, this is what I do. Who is in charge of bringing in guest speakers in your school? Typically, I just send the emails to reception, but it's really important that you ask them to forward it to the right person or to let you know who is in charge, to let you know who you should be speaking to. And in the first email, all you want is a reply. It's either them saying, this is the person you should speak to, or we are not interested. That's all you are looking for. What do you do after that? Using a software like Yesware, which I need to get sponsorship for, but you can use any email marketing tool. There are loads. There's MailChimp, there's loads. I just use Yesware. What you want to do is you want to schedule loads of emails to go out as follow-ups. So what I typically do is I will send one follow-up every day for 4 days. And I know it sounds intense, but I've experimented with it. They will hear from me 4 times a week, all right? 4 times in a week. So by the end of it, they're either saying, you're really annoying, stop emailing us. Or they're saying, stop emailing me, email Lucy, email Mark. That is the right person to speak to. Okay, so typically the first email I'm sending, it's, hey, this is me, who is the right person to speak to. The second email I'm sending, I'm saying, hey, should I keep following up with you or someone else? That email is important because it suggests that I'm going to keep annoying them. So because they don't want me to keep annoying them, typically after the second email, they'll say, no, don't follow up with me, follow up with Tracy or Mark. And they'll forward me to the right person. On the third day, I send the email as if I haven't sent an email day 1 and day 2. So I say, hey, this is me, this is what I do. Here's a testimonial from a previous school. Are you interested in these services? Do you typically bring in guest speakers in your school or college? And on the fourth day, I'll also send a very similar email as the first day. What these 4 emails do as well is I will typically send each 4 emails on a different time of the day. So the first email, I'll send it maybe 9 a.m. The next day, I'll send it in the afternoon. The third email, I'll send it in the morning, maybe 11. And then the fourth email, I'll send it like 5 p.m. when kids are gone from school. This is also very important because you don't know the best time to send an email. So when you send follow-ups, send a follow-up at a different time each time. So now you've got the first email, you've got all 4 emails, you're following up once every single day. How do you find these emails? Go on Google and type in get information about schools. That will take you to a gov website, the government website. On that website, you can see every single school, college, university, and educational institution in the country, borough to borough. Now, what you want to do is start with a borough that you live in and just email every single school in the borough that you live in. And that's primary school, secondary school, college, and if there's a university in that borough, email them as well. Now, it's really important that you put in that first email, please forward this to the right person, because typically that Gov website will just show you what school it is and the website of the school. Then you're going to go on the website of the school, go on the contact us form, and extract their email address and put it into your CRM or whatever email marketing tool you use. This is laborious. This takes time. Guys, it took me hours. So that's exactly how you do it. You go on that website, you extract it, and then you start sending out emails. Typically, my advice would be don't start with a huge blast because this is what worked for me, but different kinds of emails work for different people. And at the first stage, you want to experiment. What you don't want to do is experiment with the whole mailing list of every single school in the country. You want to experiment with a small number of people. And what you want to get is a reply. That's all you want to get. So start sending emails to a small group of schools around your area and try and get a reply. One of the most important parts of getting a reply is people opening your email in the first place, which means the subject of the email is crucially important. And no one talks about this and no one thinks about this. But the subject of the email is so important. I've sent the same email, same body of the email, with 2 different subjects, and it's had 2 completely different open rates and reply rates. What typically works for me is having a subject in the email that attracts people's attention. Say something like help for students during their GCSE, extra support for students that are at risk of exclusion, or whatever it may be. Just again, put yourself in the shoes of the person receiving the email and make the subject catchy and make it short. Try and not make it any more than 5 to 6 words. The fewer words, the better. I typically even just send student services and that's it in the email, and that gets open rates. Now, what you want to do is experiment with lots of different subjects. And Stephen Bartlett talks about experimentation all the time. Because eventually you're going to find the gold that works for you. But until then, it's all going to be experimenting. So you need to send different subjects to different people all the time, and you see what kind of thing works. Once you're getting a good amount of open rates, and again, the reason why it's important to use an email marketing software rather than just send emails through Gmail is because you need to see, are people opening them? With a software like Yesware, for example, you can see, are people opening my emails? Because if they're opening them but not replying, at least you know you're making some progress. If you're just sending out emails through your email, then you have no idea if people are opening them. You're literally just shooting in the dark and then hoping to hit a target. How are you supposed to do that? So it's really important that you invest in an email marketing tool. Now, if people are opening your emails, but they're not clicking on your links or they're not replying, then the body of the email is no good. Typically, the body of the email for people is too long. You want to make it as short as possible. You want to ask as many questions as possible because all you want is a reply. And again, you have to experiment. Now, there are 3 prerequisites to getting booked to speak, things that you have to have. The first one is a PDF file called a one-pager. It's 1 page of information that answers the question, what problem do you solve? It's critically important that as a speaker, you see yourself as a problem solver. No one cares about wanting the students motivated, right? So let's take a step back. If you are approaching schools, what do schools want? Schools typically want their students to be employed later on. They typically want their students to raise attainment, so to raise their ambition. They want students to get good grades. They want to have a good Ofsted report. So a strategy at some point for me was reaching out to schools that didn't get that good at Ofsted report and telling them, I can help you get a better Ofsted report. That is a much more compelling problem to solve than me saying, hey, I want to motivate your students. I can guarantee if you email school saying, I want to motivate your students, you will not be very successful. You need to find problems that schools actually want to solve. If you're reaching out to post 16, so colleges, what do colleges want? That's the question you need to answer. And typically, they want their college students to go from college to higher education, training, or employment. That is pretty much what colleges exist for. So if you can go to a college and say, hey, I can help more of you young people get into higher education, training, or employment, then you're actually helping them solve their problem. If you go to college and say, hey, I want to motivate your students, it's not really going to make sense. So a tangible example, I'll tell you a story. I recently worked with West London College. I teach public speaking. So I teach individuals to get really good at communicating under pressure. But rather than approaching West London College and saying, hey, I want to help your students get better at speaking under pressure, what I did is I said, I'm going to help your students be more employable. And then they said, okay, that's something that we are looking for. We want to increase the employability of our students. Now, how might you do that? And I said, very good question. Let's have a conversation. And then I have a meeting with them. And in that meeting, I show them my approach of making their students more employable, which is teaching them how to speak and communicate under pressure. But I'm masking my service by showing them what they want to see. And I think if that's the one thing you get from this video, that's the most important thing. That when you're reaching out to clients, you need to demonstrate that you can add value in something that they are currently wanting to improve. And schools want their students to get good grades, want to get good Ofsted. Colleges want their students to be more employable. And similar with universities. Universities are very competitive. So they want to have an edge on different universities. They want to get students in. And remember that universities are basically a business because for each student that comes in, they get a hell of a lot of money, either from the student or from the government. The second thing you're going to need is as many testimonials as possible. Show evidence, show proof that you can do the thing you want to do. If you have no testimonials, go to your local school down the road and ask to speak for free. Now, if you cannot convince the school at the end of your road to speak for free, then you're probably not going to convince other schools around the country to pay you for it. So that's a good starting point. Go to the school down the road, say, hey, can I speak to your students for free? In return, I want a video and written testimonial. Out of those 400 speaking engagements that I did in 2022, a good 10 to 15% of them were free speaking engagement. Because a free speaking engagement isn't just a free engagement. It's an opportunity for you to, number one, learn. Number two, demonstrate your value to that organization. Number three, use that organization as a testimonial to get other organizations that are similar. Which links to the third thing that you will need is as much video footage of you speaking as possible because people want to see you speaking. Now, if you're struggling to get on stages, simply get your phone out, get some lighting and speak to your phone. But people are going to want to see you speak before they book to see you speak. And think about it, that's absolute logic. Before you buy anything, you're going to want to see it in action. Anything. You're not going to go on a resort in Turkey without seeing any pictures, any videos. Similarly, a school isn't going to book you to speak if they've got no evidence that you do that. This is how I went from delivery driver in 2021 to over 400 speaking engagements in 2022. A thing to understand is that this is a highly competitive industry. Everyone wants to speak in schools. So you're going to be competing with me. You're going to be competing with the experienced speakers. So what's going to set you apart? Do the work. Dig deep. Find your unique value proposition. Why should people listen to you? And if you do this for a consistent amount of time, I'm pretty sure that you can get your first paid speaking engagement. I'm here to open the black box of secrets for the speaking industry so you don't have to spend thousands of pounds to get your first speaking engagement. That's all for this video. If you liked it, like, comment, and share this with the friend that wants to get into speaking. Subscribe for future videos because we are just getting started. And that's all I ask.